There is blind justice, and then there is trading justice, so that you can finally afford to get that laser eye surgery. Not only will people find you more attractive once you ditch those old glasses, you'll be able to see your charts better. That's what we call win-win. Speaking of winning, it's time for a little trading justice. Brought to you by TackleTrading.com.
Okay, hello team. Welcome out there, and good to be back. This is the Trading Justice Podcast with your host, Tim Justice. I've got a couple of very special guests here today. I'm going to introduce those those two in just a minute. As always, we're excited to be here to conduct a podcast and to give you guys information and context and ideas and hopefully a good time as well. Denna Dean is a trader from Southern California. She lives in the Los Angeles area. I actually have known Denna now for a couple years, probably, maybe a year and a half, too. And Denna was one of my mentor students at one point. She came to my office in Salt Lake City, Utah, and we had a great time for 3 days. She's got one of the greatest personalities and attitudes about life, and she is a fun person to be around, and I'm excited to get her in here. Denna, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Tim.
It's awesome to have you, by the way. And then Bob Rotolo, I want to introduce the second guest we have. Bob has also been one of my students in the past, and Bob lives in upstate New York, in Rochester, I believe. Bob, you'll have to correct me in a second if I was wrong about that. But Bob is he is just a hardworking guy. He was telling me just as we were prepping for the podcast, he used to work for FEMA, did a lot of traveling and, around the country doing projects for them. Bob found me through a trading lab a couple years ago, and actually then did an online mentorship we did for, I think, about 8 hours online, Bob, if I remember right. And Bob is, he's been working diligently. Bob is a good example to me of somebody who, just continues to keep their shoulder to the wheel and eventually will get there. And I think, Bob, you're turning the corner right now. Bob, I want to welcome you out as well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Tim. Thank you. And yes, it is Rochester, New York, and it's a pleasure being here today.
Awesome. The thing that we're going to talk about today, guys, is we're going to talk about your systems, your journey, Theta Fade, particularly because both of you happen to be students of the Theta Fade system. I'll get into that in just a minute. But why don't we start on a lighter note and kind of talk a little bit about what got you to this point and maybe some of your background and your goals, your life a little bit. Remember, the podcast is just here. We're here to have some fun. Hopefully we can educate and inform people as well. But Bob, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you enjoy doing, and that kind of thing? What are you doing in Rochester, New York, in the summertime right now?
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, I'm retired mechanical engineer. I'm 65 years old. I'm kind of detail oriented, which brought me to the whole trading thing in the first place. I'd always wanted to do it, but just never had the instructions or wherewithal to even get going. But in the summertime, our summers are pretty short here, not compared to Southern California or anything like that, but we do a lot of biking. My wife and I do a lot of exercising at the gym, visiting with a grandchild, and just trying to keep on practicing my Theta Fade type stuff as much as I can. And it seems to be working out quite well. I'm just really excited about it.
Yeah, we're going to get to Theta Fade here in just a minute. So retired and going to the gym and biking and enjoying the summers. Bob, you're living the life. I love it. It sounds like a lot of fun. Now, Denna, what part of LA County do you live in?
Right now I'm in Long Beach.
Long Beach.
Oh, yeah.
LBC?
Found my sweetheart, and we've been living the Long Beach life ever since the last couple of years.
Couple years in Long Beach, yeah. LA is such a massive place. It's been a while since I've been there. I think I'll probably be back down there soon to hang out. I know Redondo Beach is just down the road from me, and that's where my buddy Gino Poor is from, one of the coaches at Tackle Trading, one of my friends and colleagues. But also Steve Huang, who was the creator of the Theta Fade system and launched it with me and Tackle Trading here recently. And you know Steve really well. He lives down there. You ever had a chance to meet Steve in person or just over the web?
No, I got a chance to meet him in person. I don't know if you remember this, but a couple months ago you connected us because he was having a meetup. And so I followed through on that meetup and got a chance to meet him in person before starting to learn his system.
I love that. One of the things I'm very passionate about because traders can come in all shapes and sizes and forms and backgrounds and all kinds of stuff. But I'm a social person. Anybody who's been around me for more than about 30 minutes kind of knows that. I like to high five strangers on the street, and I like to connect with people. Trading just happens to be one of my passions. I think that there's this image out there that traders are all, introverts sitting behind a computer hiding from the world, and that's couldn't be further from the truth. Traders come in all different shapes and sizes and perspectives, and one of my passions is building communities so that we can collaborate and help each other. It's actually one of my big motivations as to why we're doing Tackle Trading, why we're building this podcast, why we're doing everything we do. So the fact that you and Steve are meeting up and, getting to know each other, and we're connecting with Bob, I mean, these things I'm, very, very proud of in terms of our community. There is this sense of giving back, isn't there, within the people that you've worked with, Denna? Where do you think that comes from?
I think the sense for giving back started at a young age. I had several siblings. I'm not an only child, so it started in the home. And it's continued ever since. As a matter of fact, one of my passions for investing, which started about 3 years ago, came around the forming of a club that I call Let's Invest. I said, hey, contacted some of my friends and some of my family. I said, we don't know anything about investing, but I'm looking at these numbers, and every year I see a big announcement of how much the stock market has gone up, and our accounts haven't gone up, so let's learn. So it's always in community, whether it was as a child in the home or starting the Let's Invest Club. I'm all about that.
Yeah, I actually was sitting with a couple of students recently that you guys would get along well with, and they were the head of an investing club, just very similar to what you're just talking about. It was friends and family. This happens to be an all-women's club and whatnot, and I was talking to them, and it was just so impressive. There are a lot of people out there that they feel like they can't do it on their own. But once you form a community, a little team, even if it's a small group, that empowers you, it emboldens you, it makes you brave enough to take that next step. So, yeah, I love that. Theta Fade. Theta Fade is the reason why we're here today, quite frankly, is because we want to talk about this. I want to hear you guys' experience. We launched Theta Fade.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, do that. Bob, can you top that, by the way? Denna gave us a big
kind of hard to do.
Can you top that?
Sorry, I'm going to have to pass on that one. That was
great. All right, anyway, I won't put you on the spot too much, Bob. We launched Theta Fade in July of 2015. You guys were two of the first students that got into our first enrollment group. We had limited enrollment just to make sure that everybody got a good experience and learned how to use the system. Steve was very particular with that. He said, I want to make sure all my students are happy and that I can be there to make sure all their questions are answered and all that kind of thing. Bob, tell us about your journey through Theta Fade. How did it start? What is it? Like, if you're explaining it to somebody out there that has no idea what it is, kind of explain it to them, okay?
I'll give it a shot, Tim. My journey's been about 3 years in trading. Make a long story short, I was having very inconsistent results to the point where I was just very disappointed on the whole thing. And quite frankly, I was literally within days of just quitting investing entirely. And then I started hearing about the Theta Fade system. And I decided to just wait it out until I could see what was going on with it. And essentially what it is, Steve has come up with a system where you need to have a little background in options to totally understand it, which you can learn. But every option has a special decay rate, if you would. In other words, it starts out so much money or so much credit, and by the end of its term, it's worthless. And essentially what we do is we trade that decay, if you would, on the very last day. In other words, we trade 1 day a week on Friday, which is the last day of options expiring. And essentially we have only two different types of trades. We're doing bear calls and bull put, and we are trying to get a certain amount of credit, and we monitor that very closely by looking at charts and looking for entries and exits and patterns, which you learn, obviously, over time. And you make sure that stock you're watching doesn't get too close to one of the shorts that you put in. And hopefully by the end of the day, it will expire worthless, and you will get all of the credit that you have had going into the trade. That's kind of a 30,000 feet elevation overview of it.
So here's an interesting thing here, and I want to explore this with you for just a minute. So you had been studying a lot of the theory behind trading, and you had been taught, you had even had some one-on-one training with me where we worked on, different strategies and whatnot, but sounds like you really never developed that system in a way that you were confident or even successful with, right? So you still were looking and looking, and at some point you're feeling like, man, I've got to find something now, or else I got to stop putting my time into this. And then you found Theta Fade. Is that accurate? Is that kind of what I picked up on?
Absolutely, Tim. I did training with you online, and that was a big improvement for me. It helped me tremendously. It just kind of turned the light switch on for me at that particular time. But my problem is there are so many different types of trades that can be put on when you're trading options, and some are more difficult than others, obviously. And I never had a whole lot of success doing any of the different trades. I'd win some and lose some, but I wasn't beating the Standard and Poor, which is kind of something I was shooting for. So I was just getting very discouraged, and I was looking and attending all the classes we could on Theta Fade or on tackled trading, but it wasn't clicking, Tim. And like I say, I came up to a point in my life where I said, man, this is time to get out. I got to go find something else. But I think I found it with the Theta Fade.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for sharing. It's a very compelling story, and I think there's a lesson here. Theta Fade is a very powerful system, and I would recommend everybody out there that is interested in developing that unique system to explore that. It doesn't have to be that you only trade one system out there, but it's very possible that you could choose that. Some traders, Bob, that I've known so many over the years, not only that I've taught, but that I've interacted with and networked with. Some traders, they just try to perfect one thing, and if they can make that one thing work, then they're fine with that. Other traders like to work on 4 to 6 or 8 or 10 or 100 systems. Just depends on personality and the ability with the time schedule and all that stuff to process it. I recently got an email from a student, and I'll leave his name out of it because I probably will bring him on the podcast. I want to talk to him about this, but he actually sent me an email with a very similar experience, Bob, that you just described. And he said, Tim, I had to learn all the theory, I had to learn all the terms, I had to do all of that. The classes definitely taught me that. I had systems in place, but I had too many. And eventually he found that he was better just doing one system for him. Okay. The thing I'd tell everybody out there is, your journey will be yours. You may end up doing 6 systems, who knows? But Bob, I think it's powerful that you found this one thing. Do you trade it the way Steve teaches it, or do you have your own twist on it? Tell us about your day-to-day activity with Theta Fade.
Tim, I do trade it the way Steve taught it. There's a little twist that he's taught us also, where we can actually use this for swing trade. I could get into that in a little while, but my day-to-day is essentially Monday through Thursday. I am just looking at about maybe a dozen stocks, usually very high price stocks, usually over $300, and kind of getting a feel for what they've been doing all week, seeing if there's any rhyme or reason to why they're doing what they're doing. Might be an earning thing, or might be a Fed meeting coming out that could totally screw everybody up. That's what I do. Is I'm learning how to recognize those. I'm learning to identify the entry points, the ups and downs. How Steve has taught that. And so I'm ready to go on Friday morning. And I don't have 6 or 7 screens yet like Steve has. I've got 3, which is pretty good for me so far. Mm-hmm. And it seems to be working very well.
Yeah. So you've had some success so far, I'm guessing. Is that right?
I have. I've been doing it 3 weeks now, and I think I'm up. Well, the goal here is to get like 1.5% to 3% profit per week. Mm-hmm. And then that profit gets added to your balance of last week, like a compounding interest, and now you have a little more money to invest the coming week. So, like I say, the efforts of compounding interest are pretty amazing after a while. and you just need to be consistent with it. And there's going to be ups and downs. I remember one of the classes Steve had, he had a terrible week, and he lost like $3,700, which would be a lot for me. But what really impressed me is that he showed that on the screen. I mean, it was a bad day, and so he showed us the good and the bad, and you have to learn to take those, dust yourself off, and just move on.
Well, I actually talked to Steve that day. I was in Houston, and I was sitting there in front of my computer, and I got a phone call from Steve. And so I stepped out of the room that I was in with a group of students, and I wasn't teaching at the time, so they could take the call. And I'll talk to Steve about this on the podcast as well. But when I took that call, Steve was livid, and he'll have to tell you about this one day, Bob. He was really upset. I could tell. And to me, we talk all the time about keeping emotion out of trading, and really that's like impossible to do at all times. There's no way to do it forever. In fact, I think one of the reasons why we keep telling ourselves that, it's like a positive affirmation. Keep the emotion out, keep the emotion out, keep the emotion out. But even the most seasoned, experienced, successful traders are going to get excited. They're also going to get upset. And I think we have to remember that that's part of why our team was there. Our team is there for us. You need to be able to make that phone call, and you need to be able to have somebody on the other end that can say, calm down, find your happy place, relax. You've been trading for a long time. And that's exactly the advice I gave to Steve. And, of course, he's going to bounce back. He didn't need me to tell him that. He would have bounced back no matter what. But the thing about it is, those are teaching moments. I'm really happy to hear that, Bob, because one thing that I love doing in class is actually talking about the challenges. Because it sounds like you're having success. You come in, you learn a system, you start making money, you're doing it live, but you need to also know where the hurdles lie, where the snakes in the grass are, because that's part of risk management and money management. Let me ask you just very bluntly, and then I'm going to bring Denna in on some of this as well. Do you feel like you've developed the ability to spot the risk? And do you have a plan in place to manage that risk?
Yes, Tim, absolutely. I'm not totally great at that yet, but however, before I placed a trade, I set a limit, if you would, to saying if it gets to this point, I got to get out. I had that happen last week on Priceline, and I had made a mistake when I made the entry, but I decided I'll let it go. And I was very close to the short, and I set a line in the sand that if it went above that, I got out. And I'm watching it and eating a sandwich, and all of a sudden it went above that line, almost fell out of my chair. I said, oh my God, what do I do now? And I got out, and it took me a couple of minutes to get out, and then lo and behold, the darn stock went way down below that, which would have been in my favor. So if I had waited 5 minutes, I would have been really good. But my plan was to get out when I hit it, and I did it. It was kind of, I lost a little money on that one, but I followed my plan.
Well, what's powerful about it, what's powerful about what we're doing here with Theta Fade is that you have the ability to make profit. You have the ability to apply this system on your end, but you also you have the ability to control risk and hedge it within the time frame that you're working with. That's very, very exciting. That's very, very exciting. Denna, let me ask you, let's bring you in here for a minute. Maybe you can share some of your experiences with Theta Fade.
I started to have experiences with Theta Fade before the official education program came out. Steve had started to do his weekly updates before the educational package, and I would watch those and try to decipher his thinking behind those sometimes 5-10 minute videos that he would do. And I began to use on demand and do back testing on the system to try to get ready for it. I imagine I was in training camp. I wasn't much of an athlete, but I like the theme of tackle trading, professional sports. So I get that rush, like it's game day when it's time to Theta Fade, and I wanted to kind of get the muscles going. And so from there, a lot of those feelings, that rush from when the trade is going against me, I experienced through on demand by doing about 3 months of back testing before the official system came out. And I remember where I got my first taste of how important it is to know how to either hedge this trade or get out of this trade and what that felt like inside of me when I had one of the practice trades go in the money. And the velocity of it was catastrophic, and I'm so glad that I took the time to do back testing because I would have been devastated had that happened in my live account. I mean, it jumped so fast. And I think, they give you $100,000 with TD Ameritrade in on-demand, and about half of that got wiped out by going in the money. And so I learned one of my most valuable lessons. So one thing that I do every time that I'm live trading Theta Fade is I have a whole defense of not going in the money because I saw how that would happen, and that would have worked up. That would have destroyed years and years of savings that I put and to be able to have a trading business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you've been trading Theta Fade live now for a while, Denna. How have your results
My results have been great so far. I think I'm about a 70% win ratio, and when I have had the losses, they've been manageable. And so this has been a very important part of my trading plan. Tim, you mentioned that you were my mentor, and during our time, we came up with about 5 key strategies that were good for me and my trading style. The cover call, the naked put, some vertical credit spread. So this was just a natural extension, and I was looking for a day trade system because I wanted to do some directional trading, but I wasn't having much success with just a pure call, a pure put. I just wasn't having much success with a pure directional trade. So one of the things I love the most about Theta Fade is that it's a convergence of the perfect storm. Here I've got time working for me. I love watching that screen where every 15 minutes, my profit goes up, assuming I'm on the right side of the trade. So here, it's not just me having to get direction right, but I have time working with me. I have knowledge working with me, and I don't even have to hold the line overnight. I don't have to hold the line for a week. With some of my covered calls, I don't have to hold the line for a month. I just hold the line for 6.5 hours, and I love that. And some of my results, when I look at it on a monthly basis, is equal to what I would bring in with a cover call. And it can be less capital intensive. I don't even trade Theta Fade with my entire account value. And I don't have to because of the velocity in which this system turns over my money.
Interesting. The velocity of money is a powerful concept that you guys learn in the videos and whatnot. But let's go back for a second here, Denna. Describe the educational experience people get when they start the Theta Fade system. Like, how does it go? Like, you pay for the system, you pay for access to the videos and the training, and then what? What was your experience like?
My experience was that it filled in, how do I put it? I like the layout of it. It's a very logical progression. When you think you might have a missing piece, the next video will usually cover it. And the live weekly webinar is just a cherry, on top of the pie because all the questions are filled in. And Steve is very, very generous with his time in terms of answering our detailed questions. I've been on webinars where you might ask a question and the presenter may never get to you. But the decision of Steve and the tactical trading team to keep it small has been very, very helpful for myself and I would say for our fellow Theta Faders because we do it feels like I'm having an individual experience because my questions will get answered before the end of the webinar. And then he and Phil went and created the online forum, and we hang out there. So it's been wonderful. You'll never, even if you have a question, just know that your question will be answered. You'll never be left alone in the system, and that's been my experience so far.
Right. Very, very interesting. I love it. I love the power of, the systematic approach. I'm very proud of what Steve did, by the way. I think they're top notch. How would you rate the quality of the education?
I give it a 10 plus.
Bob,
I'll ask you the same question.
I agree with Denna 100%. The thing that's always impressed me is the availability of Steve. I've called him, I've texted him, I've Skyped him, and like Denna said, he will answer any of your questions, either on the webinar or he'll do it personally. It's just I've never had that kind of access except when I was private mentoring with you. So it's like he's your own private mentor for an hour. It's kind of neat.
Awesome. You know, very exciting stuff. Very, very interesting that you guys started this journey at the same time. I think that we'll call that, you know, kind of like the launching of Theta Fade. You guys were in class number one. You'll always be kind of veteraned in there. You know, one challenge I'm going to give to both of you is that as you grow and develop, you know, give back to the team and the community. You know, I think that's very important. As you see new Theta Faders come in and as they start doing the videos and take part in the discussion boards and on the webinars and whatnot, you know, try to be there and you know, you'll learn from it as well. But I think there's a real value in being part of a team. You know, there's a real value in being a part of, you know, exactly, you know, what we're building, and that is to share your knowledge to help to empower other people, help them grow, help them, you know, get a lot of value out of it. Because there are going to be other people out there, Bob, that have the same experience you did. They're like, I just need a system. And it could very well be this system. I know at Tackle Trading, we have lots of systems, you know. If you think of the coaches and everything they do, whether it's Forex or commodities or day trading or Theta or Vega, or I mean, and that's what you're going to find in trading is you have theory and then you have systems. Theory has to come first, you know. You have to understand some of the basics, and then you develop and apply a system, right? And that is what you guys are doing, and I want to congratulate both of you on that. Let me ask you one last question, and then we're going to wrap this one up. What advice would you give a new trader out there that purchases Theta Fade, they plug the first video in, what should they expect, and what advice can you give that person? Bob, let's start with you.
I think the best thing you can do is spend a good amount of time studying the webinar, well, not the webinar, but the handouts. Steve will allow you to print it out. Study that really well. You need to have some background, like Tim suggested, in options, I think, and understanding entry points, trends in charting. Those things are very, very important, but you will get those as you grow. The other thing I'd like to leave the folks with is I think it's important to have a trading partner, and I was able to do that once before, and it worked out very well. And it's just another person to bounce some ideas off or to ask for some help. Steve is always there. I would certainly be glad to help anybody in any way I can. And another thing, Tim, is one of the criteria that I'm going to be using in the future for systems like this is, can I make a profit quickly, and can I pay for the course within a year? Well, I'm 3 weeks into the course, and I've probably made 25% of the money so far to pay for the course. So I think I'm on my way to it. So I think it's going to be a winning trade, a winning thing, and I'm really excited about it.
Got it. I love it. I love it. Denna, same question.
Study, study, study. Study what's on demand and get your practice in. And once you watch the videos once, watch them again. And also watch the webinars over and over. It's like drills. I remember, I believe it was Google had reported earnings, and I wasn't sure how to apply Theta Fade around earnings when the company had earnings. And that next week, I think it was LinkedIn or another large company was having earnings and time for Theta Fade. And I went back and rewatched that webinar to see what Steve had said about trading a company around earnings. And there were things that I had forgotten, of course, since I'm new to the system. And I was able to apply some of that knowledge from the prior week to LinkedIn and be profitable that week. So take it serious, study, practice, and you'll be a winner in the system.
Awesome. Guys, you have been listening to the Trading Justice podcast presented by TackleTrading.com. We have two of our first people in, I don't know even what we want to call it, first launch students of our Theta Fade system, and they joined in July of 2015, and now we're actually going to do a second launch and a second wave on August 25th, Tuesday, August 25th. If you're interested in joining that session to get more information about Theta Fade, that will be a free webinar. You can email team@tackletrading.com. You can find us on Twitter @TackleTrading. You can go to our Facebook page as well, Tackle Trading, or you can go to the website, tackletrading.com. This has been Tim Justice from the Trading Justice podcast, and we are out. Welcome back, first of all, to the Trading Justice podcast. And we just actually had an interview with Bob Rotolo and Dina Dean. And I even said peace out and said we were done, but then I just thought, that was so powerful. I'd like to get Steve Huang and his reaction to it, because Steve, and you're here with me. Welcome back, first of all, my friend. How you doing? Say hello to everybody out there.
I'm doing great. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me over here, Tim.
Yeah, no problem. So you actually popped into the room as we were recording the end of that, and so you got to hear a little bit of them talking in terms of their experience with Theta Fade, talking about you as their instructor. What's your reaction to the interview that Bob and Dina gave?
Boy, I am so pumped up right now. It's just I feel so proud of both Bob and Dina, and it's kind of funny, Tim. I bet you probably feel this way about your students when you see some do well. Like, I actually got chills down my spine as I was listening to them and hearing how well they did. And Dina didn't even tell you, but she's actually already made back the amount that she paid for the course. She made it back in 1 day of live theta fading.
Wow.
And just to see how great they are and how willing, especially Bob, is to reach out and try to help other people, to share his success with other people. It's just, man, I'm getting pumped up right now, Tim, just thinking about it.
I'm with you. I got to tell you, I thought that was really, really powerful as well. And I was very excited to hear that, from Bob and Dina. I know them both. I've known them, in different forms and different ways. It's two very different personalities, by the way. But it seems like they get along. I thought the funniest part of the podcast was when Dina gave the old, scream. She was cheering, and I asked Bob, Bob, can you top that? And he very politely, like, I know, Bob, no, Tim, I don't think I can. Thank you for asking.
I missed that part, but I'm definitely going to go back and try to listen to that. That's hilarious. What were they screaming about?
Well, I think I just asked him, hey, guys, what do you think of Theta Fade? And then Dina just starts, just gives a big yell, like if you're at a ball game.
That is awesome, man. That is awesome. Tim, I'll tell you, man, teaching, this is the first class I'm teaching, and when you see a student catch on, learn it, apply themselves, and then just hit the road and actually start generating money from what you taught them, boy, I got to tell you, there's not many better feelings than that. It's, wow.
Yeah.
What a great thing.
I agree with that 100%. Very, very powerful. Steve, and I'm proud of you, bud. And I got to tell you, we've got a lot more work to do in front of us. In fact, just as we were coming on here, I was telling you, you've got a big challenge and a big journey in front of you. But always just remember, you're out there helping people, and that's actually the whole mission of Tackle Trading. I think it's to help empower people through education. Yeah, and you've got an opportunity to do that for the people who take your system. And it's got to be a real boost to you to hear your students loving it so much. So congratulations, my friend.
Oh, it is. But Tim, you got to take some credit too. Thank you so much. You and I worked together so hard on these videos, and the insights you gave me and the comments and the suggestions, we built them all into it. And I think that's a big reason why these people really enjoy this class so much. It's so thorough. It hits on the key points. It doesn't mess around with the minor points. And you deserve some kudos there too, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been doing this a while, and I know we did work hard, and I'm excited to get everybody else involved, that wants to be involved in Theta Fade. We've got another event coming up here on, I believe it's August 25th. No, it's August 25th at 8:30 Eastern Time. That, Steve, talk a little bit about that. It's a free preview, right, where we're going to kind of explain to people what Theta Fade is?
Yep, it's going to be August 25th. I believe it's going to be 5:30 Pacific Coast time, and it's going to be an hour-long webinar. We're going to open up Theta Fade again. So last time we had it open for just a very short time, just because we wanted to deliberately keep the class size small. The same mentality is going to be here this time. We want to keep the class size small, and we're going to be open for about 24 hours to admit new students to come in and take part of round 2. And what we'll do is we'll talk about exactly what Theta Fade is, so people will know what the system is. We may even bring on a current student of the Theta Nation right now, so that way they may come on board and talk about their experiences and what they like about the system. And I think we're going to have a blast, Tim. It should be. The last one was great. I'm expecting this one to be really fun too.
Yeah, I know we are going to have a blast, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to bringing some new people in so that they can do what Denna and Bob did for themselves and found a system. I was saying this, and this will be the last thought. There's no such thing as one system for the market. In fact, I was having a good conversation with Solon and Vic Albert and Dean Beckett via email recently. And, some traders who are trading, aficionados, people who just want to dive in, they might have 6 or 7 systems. Not everybody's like that. Some people just have the time or maybe the ability to just do one right now. And that's a good place to start. So anyway, we're going to have that event. It's going to be a great one. Steve, thanks for coming in and just kind of reacting to that. And everybody else out there, get in the game. If you want to get involved in Theta Fade, find us on tackletrading.com. You can look up Theta Fade under the Trading Room tab up at the top, and make sure that you enroll in that webinar. I think we'll also have some advertising on it on our Facebook page, Tackle Trading, Twitter @TackleTrading, or you can always email team@tackletrading.com. Okay, get in the game. Peace.
You've been listening to the Trading Justice Podcast. If you've enjoyed yourself and think that the conversations and topics we've covered are important, help spread the word. Give us your feedback. 5 stars on iTunes, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. The Trading Justice Podcast is proudly sponsored by TackleTrading.com. Get off the sidelines and get in the game.